So I put the slide up and I made this billboard over there with the metaverse word and then three other words at the bottom: hype, fanfare, and promise. So over the last 6 months to 8 months or so, there's been a lot of hype around the metaverse, and you may have seen it in the newspaper. And people who know nothing about the metaverse kind of saying, "Hey, what is the metaverse?" All these newscasts, and then other people really into the space are kind of very excited about it, and that's where the fanfare comes. And that everybody who's tried it, and if you've got like one of these headsets, I've got my headset here, and if you've tried the Oculus, you've probably had that wow factor and done several really cool experiences in there. And so when you have all that fanfare, then there's all this promise to say, okay, now what can we do with all that? So I'm hoping after we get through this talk, you'll get a sense of maybe all of those things. You have a better sense of what the metaverse is. And my top sentence there: what is the metaverse and why it's not the metaverse? And my intention is to completely confuse you on my first slide. So the reason for that is that there's controversy over this thing, over the M word, it's called, because people are not happy necessarily with that word metaverse. And maybe you'll get a sense of why as we go through the talk. So here's a click at the bottom, says click here, click here to enter the metaverse. So if I click, oh, here we are inside the metaverse, right? It looks like a ghost town. This is intentional. This is actually a picture of just a ghost town. But if you've ever been to any of the virtual worlds, and there's dozens of them, there's probably well over 150 different virtual worlds that you can visit in your VR headset. A lot of them are empty. A lot of them are pretty cool. You can walk around and check it all out, but there's nobody in there. Or there might be one or two people in there, so it feels a little bit like a ghost town. And that's because people are building all these worlds, but not as many people are inside of them yet. So if I click here, this is kind of a map of the metaverse right now. So you see it's all black, and then over on the one side, there's just a little dot over here. That's kind of like what we've built so far, right? So most of it has not been built, and it's a giant empty space. And this map is actually an over-exaggeration by about an infinity, because the metaverse is infinite. Because it's all digital and all inside a computer, it can be any size we want it to be. So, even though we built those 200 or 150 of those virtual worlds, they take up no space at all, and it's endless, really. So let's be a bit more serious. And then if you have been inside of any of the 3D immersive worlds, so you might have tried the Oculus Quest 2, and you might have tried some of the other, like Vive Focus Pro, and there's the Pico Neo. There's one called Zapper. There's several different headsets that you might have tried that allow you to go into this immersive 3D world. And these are just some pictures I selected to kind of give you a snapshot. In the top left corner, there's an app called Rec Room, which is a bunch of games and social spaces to be in. That's a picture of my dorm room over there. I made it look like kind of like a log cabin. It's really neat inside there, and there's a fire going, and you go upstairs and there's a pool upstairs, and it's really neat. But anyway, the other two images in the top are from our Indigenous house. So we built Indigenous virtual reality worlds to go and learn Indigenous language in context. So our students and elders and community can go in there and interact and practice the language. And then the bottom left there, that's a picture of me and a colleague of mine, Rob Terrier, who's our XR manager for the whole college. We're in the Oxford Library. So that is a digitization of like a digital model of the Oxford Library in England. And we're messing around with some objects there. We've got an asteroid that we're playing with, and we've got the lunar rover sitting on the floor. And you can call up these objects and just bring them in and interact with them. It's a great way to teach. And in the bottom right-hand corner is a space called the Campfire at AltSpace VR. And when you're in there, it's not very much like a ghost town. So I remember I said there's all these worlds built where there's nobody in there. Well, this is one of the spaces that a lot of people end up going to first. So there's always people in there, and you can see some of them in the background. So you could run into people from anywhere in the world. And then from here, you can teleport out to dozens and dozens of other spaces to interact with people. So this just gives you a sense of when people say metaverse, this is kind of what they're talking about. And it is very cartoony at the moment. And so a lot of times when I make graphics about the metaverse, it look really cartoony. And that's because that's what it looks like when you're in there. So I mentioned at the beginning that we just got back from California. And so here's some pictures of us. We went to AW22, and this stands for Augmented World Expo. So augmented world meaning that we're adding data and sort of virtual digital layers to all the world around us. And so I went there with colleagues from Georgian College, but also we met up with people from all around the world. So in the bottom photo on the right there, we've got people from Australia and from England, from Italy, from all over the United States, and then of course in Canada. It was quite an eye-opening conference because you get a sense of all the technologies that are coming out right now, what development level that they're at. And on the very first talk, when they were introducing the conference, they started saying the M word, and literally instead of saying metaverse, they say the M word, because people are a little bit upset about the M word, and there's a reason for that. So here's a Google Trends graph, and it shows there's this blue line there, and that's people searching the word metaverse. And you can see there's a big spike on October 29. And the reason for the spike was when Facebook said, hey, we're now called Meta, and we're going to take over everything that says about the metaverse. So this, at that point in time, that caused a little bit of waves in that industry, because most people were already referring to the metaverse as something belongs to everybody. And if Facebook suddenly said, no, it's mine, that caused a bit of waves. So people are a bit unhappy about that situation. And there was some reverberations to Facebook, and their stock price kind of crashed like crazy after that, because people were upset about it in the industry. Things are kind of resetting now and cooling off, and you can kind of see that meta search term is kind of going down, right? So it's less popular now. And you can see, for comparison, augmented reality and virtual reality there. Those are the yellow and red lines at the bottom, and how they're just been kind of stable. And now metaverse is kind of getting down to that level too. Okay, metaverse definition. So through this talk, I'm going to call the metaverse, even though I don't have a better or a different name for it. And so we'll say the metaverse or the M word or whatever it is. It's just a good, convenient way of referring to it. But where did that word come from? You might already know this, but there's a book by Neil Stephenson from 1992 called Snow Crash. And in that book, there is a metaverse in which the hero, literally his name is Hero, is a pizza delivery guy in real life, but he's a warrior prince inside the metaverse, and he's part of this really big plot, right? So he's got kind of two worlds going on, and that's where the idea of the metaverse came. It's an entirely digital world that you can go in and interact in and have a completely different existence in. So that's why people like the word metaverse now, and it picked up some favor. So in 2021, though, people are, by 2021, we're trying to redefine it. So here's one by Tony Parisi. He's from Unity. Unity is one of those software companies that has the ability to build 3D digital immersive worlds, right? And there's a lot of video games made there, and some movies are using that for video effects. He's also one of the pioneers of XR technology. And when I say XR, extended reality, so that's a popular term to say it's kind of all-encompassing of augmented reality, virtual reality, and anything else. So what he says, it's the sum total of all publicly accessible virtual worlds, real-time 3D content, and related media that are connected in an open global network, controlled by none and accessible to all. Really important in there, virtual worlds, it's real-time, it's all connected together like the internet, and it's not controlled by anyone, accessible by everyone. So those are some key things that are kind of coming up as to what the metaverse is. So at that conference, we have John Riccitello. He's the CEO of Unity, and he is the one who presented a new definition, which is a little simpler, and I think it's pretty good. And it's the next generation of the internet. So it's features. It's always real time, so it's constantly changing, and it's right on time. It's not yesterday's news, it's now. It's mostly 3D, so there's lots of 3D content, mostly interactive, so I can interact with pretty much everything. And it's mostly social, means that people are in there and avatars, and we're all interacting. And it's mostly persistent, meaning that if I went in there and did something in this 3D space, like moved an object, if I go back later, the object is still moved, and it stays like that. So this is kind of where we're headed. So you can see that, when we say metaverse, we're actually talking about a whole new version of the internet. So this is an interesting diagram here, or a chart. So it goes from Web 1.0 over to Web 3.0. And I've taken just a common website that maybe a bunch of people have been to. So this is the CBC website. So that first one is from October 31st, 1996. And you can see that it's just a fairly basic website. I can click on stuff and I can read it. It's a little bit like a digital book. But when you get to Web 2.0, there's more content, and now I can actually interact with stuff. So I can put my own comments on things and I can search around on there. And by the middle diagram, this one here where the chicken is there, we've got the rise of social media. So they've got their social media links here, so you can link out. They got stay connected, so you can read this website from multiple devices from anywhere. And then sort of towards the end of Web 2.0, which is kind of where we're at now, we're at the transition between 2 and 3. We have way more video content. So a lot of these stories on that fourth image there, that really is a lot of video content. You click on there and you can watch the story as opposed to just read it or look at pictures. And then when we get to Web 3.0, and things are happening now. So these are actual images from CBC News. So you got CBC VR, which means that I can watch some of those news stories with my headset on, and I can see immersive 3D video. I can see 4K VR video. And in the middle one is shown on your regular smart TV at home, but it has an overlay in there of augmented reality. So it's showing the election results with the newscaster there and the pundits around the table, and then a graphic right there that changes in real time as people get elected to the different seats. So it's a completely different way of viewing the data about election. And the bottom one is showing a holographic interview. So you have an Olympian there being interviewed. So the Olympian is over at the Olympics, and then the newscaster is here, and they can do an interview that feels like it's in person, but it's a hologram that is standing there. So you get a sense of where Web 3.0 is going, but we're right at the very beginning of it. So here's sort of Web 3.0. Web 1 is read, so just read the content. Web 2 was write it, so I can interact and comment, and I can create my own pages and such. And Web 3 has execute added onto that, and that meaning that I can do stuff in there. So it's either me doing things, or it's computer to computer or machine to machine, where one 3D website and another one are interacting and communicating and adjusting my experience in real time. And there's the word semantic. So some people call Web 3.0 the semantic web. Semantic really is it's just a word for meaning, so that the web itself has meaning. So one great example of that is, if you go into Google, and sometimes if you type your search term in, and it might be like Google hotel in southern Mexico or something, right? And I'm searching that right now, a whole bunch of results will come up, and I've got to kind of tease through them. But instead, in a semantic web, I could say hotel in Mexico, and it already knows that I'm traveling to Mexico on, let's say, July 5th. I'm going to be in Cancun, and I like, say, 2-star hotels on the beach, and I like blah, blah, blah. It knows all that context already. So it's only going to show me the stuff that is meaningful to me. And it'll also give me a variety of different 3D experiences, so I can test things out before I purchase. Decentralized being important in that, we all carry devices around, and we access a lot of our content through these big companies, like through Google and Facebook are two big ones. But a decentralized web means I can grab content from anywhere. I don't need Google and Facebook. As I'm walking down the street, the street sign sending me information to my phone if it's relevant to what I need. And immersive 3D, I already mentioned, in that all of this content can be viewed in a three-dimensional immersive way. And I put a little video down here, hopefully that's playing for you, and it shows this shoe, spinning around in 3 dimensions. And this is on the web right now for Reebok shoe ad. But in Web 3.0, I'll be able to grab that object, save it to my phone, put it in my 3D shopping cart, and if I want it later, I can buy it later, or I could just add it to my virtual world, and now it's in my virtual world, and I've got a pair of Reebok shoes in there because it's a 3D object. So you can see that there's a lot of interesting functionality that's going to be in Web 3.0, and that's what makes the magic of the metaverse. And so you've got a crazy real estate boom kind of going on because everyone's thinking, well, I need a space to put my store, my 3D store, or a game that I'm going to build. And so there's been a mad rush to buy virtual real estate. There was a boom, and now we're in the bust part. And it goes back to what I showed before, the big black slide with the dot. The metaverse is endless. So, yes, it's kind of cool to be where everybody else is, but it's also endless. So anybody can build anything anywhere. So the real estate is questionable at the moment, but it's still required if you need a web address, basically. So this is a slide that I've used before in the past, but I wanted to throw it in again because I want to clarify something. Sometimes when we're talking about the metaverse, we're thinking about it all of it as this digital environment where I put my VR headset on and I'm immersed in a digital fictional world. So that's what's on the left. And it's magical and it's amazing. And it's, I got superpowers in there and all kinds of cool stuff. Versus, a more practical version of where maybe I'm just looking at it through my cell phone. Or I've got these AR glasses on and I can see my Netflix. I got my computer screen up on the wall over there. So there's two kind of different things going on here. One is, this Web 3.0 or the metaverse superimposed on my reality versus a fantasy reality. So really it's all the same thing, because you can imagine that guy over there who's got the AR headset on the right-hand side, he might be in his kitchen at that time looking at the astronaut, but if he wanted to, he could say, flip a switch, and then now he's over on a world that looks a lot more like on the left side. It's a complete fantasy world. So it really is a matter of context of what you need to do when, and less about the fantasy aspect of it. And it's about the devices.